What goes up must come down. Today we're talking about a prime minister who came to power not once, not twice, not even thrice, but 5 times. And still she had to ran off. This isn't the story of a sudden collapse. It's the story of how power rises slowly and then disappears all at once. Sheikh Hasina wasn't just another leader. She ruled Bangladesh longer than anyone in modern history. For years, her position looked unshakable. By the early 2020s, it seemed almost impossible to imagine Bangladesh without her. And part of that authority came from who she was. Sheikh Hasina was the daughter of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the founding leader of Bangladesh. After her family was assassinated in 1975, exile shaped her early life. Years later, when she returned to power, one lesson stayed with her: never lose control again. Under her rule, the country changed visibly. Highways expanded, cities grew upward and outward. Bangladesh's economy averaged around 6 to 7% growth for years. Per capita income rose sharply, from under $700 in the mid-2000s to over $2,500 by the early 2020s. In fact, by 2021, reports claimed, Bangladesh per capita income was even higher than India on certain aspects. On paper, it was a success story. For supporters, this wasn't propaganda, it was proof. Proof that stability mattered more than noise. Proof that control delivered results. But proof only works as long as people believe the system is fair. And slowly, that belief began to crack. The streets didn't erupt all at once. They changed tone. Small gatherings became routine. Slogans repeated. Police lines appeared, then stayed. It still looked manageable, orderly, temporary. But beneath the calm, something had shifted. People were no longer asking to be heard. They were testing how far the system would bend. One issue moved to the center of that anger is government jobs. Bangladesh reserves a portion of public sector jobs for specific groups, including descendants of freedom fighters and other categories. The system was created for a reason, to correct historical injustice. But by the late 2010s, more than half of government jobs were reserved. For students, especially from middle-class families, this felt personal. 2 people could work equally hard, yet face completely different outcomes. Students protested, not against history, but against a future that felt blocked. In 2018, protests erupted. Reforms were promised. Anger cooled down. Then, years later, court rulings appeared to revive parts of the quota framework. For many students, it felt like progress was being undone. By 2024, protests returned, larger, broader, and harder to contain. This time, students were no longer alone. Teachers, doctors, engineers, and other civil society groups joined in. Public frustration aligned around a single demand: change. At the same time, trust was eroding elsewhere. Opposition parties questioned elections, some boycotted them, journalists reported pressure, public demonstrations faced tighter restrictions. Each decision could be defended individually, but together they created a dangerous feeling that power no longer needed consent. When reports emerged of live fire used against protesters, fear stopped working. Anger replaced it. And on August 5, 2024, what had begun as a student-led protest over the quota system turned into one of the largest confrontations in Bangladesh's recent history. Thousands of people marched toward government buildings in Dhaka. Clashes with security forces intensified, and reports of force used against protesters emerged in multiple outlets. With pressure mounting from the streets and uncertainty within state institutions, Sheikh Hasina resigned that afternoon and left the country in a Bangladesh Air Force military aircraft accompanied by her sister. The aircraft first entered Indian airspace via Agartala. From there, she was flown onward to the Hindon Air Force Base near New Delhi. Upon arrival, she was received by India's National Security Advisor, Ajit Doval. A leader who had ruled a country for decades did not exit through an election or a parliamentary process, but through evacuation. History will debate her legacy, builder, controller, or both. But one question remains unanswered. Was this the end of Sheikh Hasina's story, or just the pause before another return?